Footy and Frothies. Daggy and Barney are back. Delayed start. We're back to Studio B. We're back on the deck at the old Dagster's house. David, you've had quite the week. I don't think I won't ask you
Week's been
how
right.
your week's been. I'll just tell you it's good that we get to talk footy and take your mind off for a bit, eh?
Yeah, week's been okay. The weekend's one of the roughest ones I've had for the entire life, really. But these things happen. We move on and we keep on going. We'll be here to talk about footy.
So just thoughts in general, though, just touch on quickly your thoughts with you and the family, the loss of your beautiful mother-in-law. Genuinely nice person.
Absolutely.
Is a tremendous loss for you and everyone involved. So thoughts with you there. But as I said, we won't dwell on things too much outside of that.
I appreciate it, mate. Thank you.
And we're joined today, for whatever that's worth, the one bloke that used to live in a club Trev, that still listens to us. Actually, it is you. Who is a familiar voice, but a friend of the show, and has popped in to join us today, Alex. Somehow just talking off air, it's, of all teams, we've converted to the West Tigers, so I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, I know, it's tragic, very tragic. 2 games in and it's a nightmare already, but good to be here. Good to talk some footy.
So you stick around and add in whatever you need to. Of course, leave us some feedback, social media, YouTube especially. There's been some good input there. Facebook, we're on Spotify, Instagram and Twitter. We also are on rugbyleaguemerch.com, so go and buy some of these sexy hats and beanies and support that. It is, though, Beanie for Brain Cancer around, I assume you're going to get to, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Mark Hughes Foundation. It's 5-6 years now, I think it's going on, and they seem to be hitting around the $1 million mark for the last couple of years. So go out and get involved. They've got a whole new style again this year, which I saw during the week. It's actually a pretty nice looking beanie. So I'll be going out of my way to try and find one of those.
Is it still the same sort of place as IGA?
IGA and Lowe's, as far as I remember, yeah.
Because last year
they
all sold out.
Or online, yeah, they did. They sold out pretty early last year. I
actually missed out on them. I tried 3 or 4 places, but I will try tomorrow to see if I can get one from IGA up the road here and see how we go. But a fantastic cause and get around that. Alex, you just come back from Korea.
I have.
How was that?
Beautiful. Beautiful country, beautiful people, beautiful culture. It's different to Australia, but as much as I loved it, it's good to be back home. Always good to be back home.
And the best food you ate over there?
Oh, bit of a mix of the mother-in-law's galbitang, beef short rib soup, or simple street food, sotok, little fried sausages and rice cake. Can't go wrong with that.
Oh,
lovely.
Nice.
And you're on the beers now.
I am. I was going to say I had Terra beer when I was over there. I was going to say I forced myself to drink beer, and I got through it unscathed, which was good. So now beer doesn't faze me in Australia. It's all the same.
Look at you. Just in time to come on Footy and Frothies.
I'm a true Aussie man now. Just in time for Footies and Frothies.
Some big news out of the week, I guess. Where should we start? Let's start with Reece Walsh. 3 games from last night for calling the referee a C-bomb, despite the best efforts of everyone involved to say he didn't. I think it's probably pretty clear he did. Well, at least that was how the judiciary ruled anyway. There was some PR smothering on Instagram, replacing comments and all sorts of things. He misses Origin 3.
A very articulately worded statement that came out after his original statement, which I'm sure he wrote every word by himself. David Fafita didn't help him much in the hearing. Oh, he was looking at Carrigan. He definitely said it to the ref. I meant Pat. Oh, poor bastard.
Anyway.
Big question for mine is if Origin 3's are decided, does he get a week, or do they still give him the 3? I reckon he probably only gets a week if Origin 3's are decided, to be honest.
Given what we've seen from Tino, 2 weeks for game 1 and 2, I would suggest probably. Very quickly, who replaces him?
I think the easiest option is AJ Brimson at the moment. Was 18th man in the previous game. Ponga came out, I think, after game 1 and said, don't pick me for the rest of the series. So whether he has a change of heart and wants to come back and play game 3, I think it'd be unlikely. I think that the safest and the most short option is probably just to put AJ back at fullback and leave Hammer in the centres, unless you want to put Hammer back there, who's been in pretty rare form the last month or so.
I think they're too obvious. I assume, given he was 18th man, given he got the job done in the last couple of years, at least last year. No, he was injured last year. Before he was very good. I assume he just slots straight in because
been parachuted in a couple of times and never let anyone down.
Yeah, because to move Hammer, you then have to find a centre. So I assume it's just like for like. and it'll be what it is. Look, in terms of the ban, I don't disagree with it. I think it's fair enough. You can't do that, and the fact he actually probably took hand it the wrong way. I'm sure if he just showed remorse from the start and put his hand up, he probably gets a week. But
maybe, yeah, that's a good point. If you just
would
if
the
you just
early
owned
plea
it,
have been?
probably 1 or 2 weeks.
Just said, look, I carried on a bit, put out the same 20, 50-word statement, and tried very hard not to do it again.
Yeah.
He probably gets a week.
Yeah, you're not wrong on that. I think you're pretty correct there.
What are you looking for? A smoky bin?
No, I'm fine.
I'll get you one in a minute.
Danny,
Oh, it's cool.
sorted.
Anything else, Alex? You want to add to that, or are you just along for the ride?
I was just along for the ride. I mean, we're already down 2-0. Origins are no interest right now.
A bit like that.
New South Wales is playing like that too.
Yeah, well, you've summed it up there in. It's surprisingly not sponsored by Harvey Norman, actually, or anything about this. But anyway, they used to be. Casualty ward, I don't have a lot. I can't think of any major ones over the weekend.
No, I don't think
There's
there
probably
was a
something
great
really
deal.
obvious, but I can't think of any. It's a busy time of year for me, so I haven't done my full research. I know there'll be some Titans fans having a go at me for that, but that's fine.
Dallin looked like an old man by the end of the Warriors game. He was pretty sore after doing backflips over the try line 3 or 4 times. But
and the big signing news of the week, very quickly, Tig Wilton's extended for another year, so that's good, wrapping him up till 2025 from the Sharks. And Manly have gone on a spree. They've signed Luke Brooks for what has been reported as $700 a year. Jackson Paulo is going straight there from the Roosters, who looked like a world beater for about 3 weeks at the start of the year. Totai Kula has extended his stay. And there was a report about Hayes Perham, but I haven't seen confirmation of that. So
yeah, I'd heard that as well.
I'd heard it, but there's nothing reported as far as I can tell. So that may have been all complete bullshit. What do you make of it? What do you make of
Brooks is a funny one, obviously.
Brooks is and obviously, if you listen to the show, I'm quite close to the source. But what do you make of the Luke Brooks signing for all three parties?
For me, it's a backup plan for DCE after the end of next year. To be honest, there's talk that Schuster's about to extend as well with the $2.5 million deal on the table to stay at 6. So for me, it looks like he's a backup option for the next 12 months, and then we see what happens after that. But Brooks isn't getting any younger either, so I don't know how that stacks up 12 months from now.
And 4 years is a long time.
Yeah. So for mine, it looks like they want to put him into the 7 position after next year when DCE probably retires, but you'd really want him playing first grade in the time being.
Well, he'll play 6. He'll go straight there and play 6 outside
and then
DCE.
Schuster moves back to the back row.
If you'd had, for Parramatta fans and Tigers fans and probably Manly fans,
Schuster probably goes to
if
13.
you'd had Luke Brooks and Jacob Arthur playing halves for Manly on your bingo card at the start of the year or on the bold prediction show, if someone had reported at the start of 2024, Jacob Arthur and Luke Brooks would be
Origin 3
side
by side.
the halves combination at Manly. It would have won the bold prediction show.
It's not effective immediately though, is it?
No, it's next year.
Yeah.
But I had the thought this morning. Wow, like Jacob Arthur's still in the books and may well play 7 if Brooks fires at 6. Maybe they keep him there.
Yeah.
I think it's good for at least 2 parties. Luke Brooks has shown some good stuff this year. I'm actually very, very interested. We'll go as far as to say excited to see what he does produce outside. DC is a world-class centre. And if I'm going to make the Jerome Luai analogy I made at the start of the year or halfway through the year about Luai and Brooks, he's now going to be able to show it because he's going to be outside DCE, who's going to do all the game management, do all the important stuff, and Brooks is just going to be the Luai of the side. It'd be very interesting to compare like for like next year.
Yeah, absolutely it will. His mentality's a bit funny. He seems to, if he does have a bad game, he seems to back it up with another 2 or 3 behind it. It's not one of those goldfish guys that just sort of lets everything go and then turns up the next week. But, it's probably a good move for Brooks more than anyone else, to be honest. Well, he
actually came out and said last year that his next contract would be about him.
Yeah.
You turn down the Tigers and he's gone. To get 700 for 4 years is.
I was surprised there was anyone in the
incredible.
NRL that would offer him 700, to be honest.
Well, and that's why he snaps it
I did say that was probably the mark that someone gets him for, so it doesn't surprise me that he's been happy to snap up the deal at that amount. But yeah, I really thought 550, 600 was probably his limit. But if that's what Manly are basing their plans on for the next 4 years, then
Well, riddle me this,
where they're going to go.
Barney man. What they've got going to have Brooks in their books at 700. Schuster's at 800 allegedly at the moment, and about to re-sign for extended contract.
900 or whatever.
DC's on a mil. Tommy's on a mil.
Yep.
Jake's on, let's say 6 or 7. Garrick's not cheap. That's
It's not going to get any cheaper
that's
either.
7 blokes that you're now going to have to fill the rest of it. Olakau'atu's about either just upgraded or won't be cheap. You've now got to fill 22 roster spots with 4 mil.
It's been their problem for the last few years, to be
Well,
honest.
it's when you talk about roster management, it doesn't seem sound to me.
As soon as they lose 2 of those guys, they fall to pieces.
Unless
It's
they
what's
have-
happened this year. It's
Unless
what's happened the last 2
both
years.
Brooks and Schuster are heavily back-ended, and they get the DC money down the road.
That's worked well for them in the past.
Well, seems to be their modus operandi, doesn't it?
Cool is a good signing, I think. Young fella shows a lot of promise, has a lot of pace. Is someone that you would want to, I think, ink a good long-term deal to have out in the back line there. Schuster and Brooks to me doesn't really work together. Not this year coming.
He's been told apparently Schuster's across it or he's playing back row.
He's playing 13 or back row.
So Jacob Arthur's up
fair
their
call.
sleeve, which I honestly think will be they'll hope to have a Jacob Arthur year of DCE. And
It's probably
prove
the
him
best thing
seven.
for Schuster to bring him through in his career as well. He can be a little bit lazy occasionally out the back there and not get as involved as he needs to as someone who's running the show in the middle of the field. But he's going to have to pick up his defence. He's going to be playing on an
Yeah.
edge or as a 13,
Well, nowadays you need to get through 50 tackles as well, and
at least 40.
fitness has been his issue. I was glad to see the Tigers. Benji turned around and said, no, it's not the answer, because they could have got him from reports, and for once made a smart decision.
The big problem is now Manly basically they've basically turned around and said they don't need a forward pack.
Well,
or
that's
they're
to
going
my point.
they're going to run through with a bottom dollar forward pack, which is
And you got Cool is serviceable. I don't know where Parker sits on the contract wise. I don't know where. I assume Morgan Harper's on the way out if Paulo and Cooler and Tuipulotu are all
re-signed. Yeah.
hovering around. It's
I dare
There's
say
not a
they'll
lot of
lose
guts.
the likes of Olakau'atu or Kepi or
Paseka.
Paseka or
well,
maybe
Kep-
2 of the
Kepi's
3.
probably a
but
250 player anyway. But
yeah, but I dare say they're going to have to lose 2 of those to try and balance things out and bring juniors through.
be
So,
interesting to see. Like Paseka could go to the Warriors and become, like go to the right
Storm
forward
Sharks
pack and
somewhere.
become a beast.
Yeah.
He is a beast. He just an occasional beast. Where to for the Tigers in terms of they have 0 halves on their books. Well, they've got Adam Dewey,
and Wake.
who's out for the year. Wakeham's off contract at the end of the year. Dane Laurie is going to play 6 this week, but realistically, his only offers are from. He needs to perform in this next 4 weeks, or he'll be in England next year. I'm not filled with confidence about him, but we'll
It's
see. What
paper
happens.
thin at the moment, isn't it? I don't know who's coming off contract into next year, but that's something you're not going to know until around November around the end of this year anyway. They're going to have to target the likes of your Dejan Arcees, the guys like Trindle, maybe even Sam Walker from the Roosters. But they're going to have to go and find someone who's not getting regular first grade footy and try and get them into a spot.
I don't think Sam Walker is a ridiculous price to come. I think Roosters don't hold players. They don't hoard
Generally
players.
not, yeah.
They're look at Jackson Paulo. He
You're out the door, you're out the
lasted
door.
17 rounds. Sanders Smith's been pretty good. We'll get to Turbo. We'll get to what they do about Teddy next year. So potentially there's another. They have a preseason with another 5'8", and Kiri takes a 7. I can see Sam Walker on the open market. Otherwise, realistically, they're meeting with young Fainu this week, will be a superstar from all reports, but he's 17, 18, needs to get up and going, and is not a done deal yet. I believe the talk was he would be, but it's not yet, and I think Dolphins are looking at that. Beyond that, I think they've expressed Braden Trindle. I don't think that's gone well, but I haven't heard anything since, and he'd be a great option. Other than that, I think you're looking towards trying to get a Sexton, maybe a Pezzett, who was very good in the weekend. You got to try and find someone from that the next echelon, which is why I was actually a bit surprised they didn't try and swap Jacob Arthur when they were pushing
was
off and
talks
go
about
out
it
the door.
originally, yeah.
Who, again, classic Tigers, has come out and said he never wanted to leave the club, funnily enough. Also, fun story, the other halfback that was there last year never wanted to leave the club, but now he's playing for Newcastle. So they do make their way into their own bed, the Tigers. But look, if I was making a wish list, obviously it'd be a George Williams. I believe he's re-signed a long-term deal in England, so hopefully a Wellesby, a Dodd is your ideals.
Yep.
Maybe an Aiden Caesar. I don't know how old Blake Austin is now, but maybe an Aiden Caesar or someone for a year just to get you into the Fainu era. But yeah, it all feels a bit far away still for the Tigers, as this will not look impressive on the YouTube.
Considering they've gone about putting together a pretty good back row and the bits and pieces around someone that you need to run the show in the middle of the field, they've got, they're pretty much there. They just need that.
They're missing two
They need
players,
the
a
halves
6 and a
sorted
7.
out.
Yeah.
So.
And even if you had, and obviously Dewey doing out doesn't help, but
But he wasn't setting the world on fire at 6 either. So
no, they need a 7. Simple as that. They need to throw $1 million. Like if it's for a year, fucking beg, borrow, and steal Ben Hunt, like or someone like that.
Yeah.
They just need someone for a year or 18 months to get some youngsters in. But we don't
Mitchell
have an
Pearce
answer.
wants to come back apparently. Never
Yeah,
know.
it sounds like
He might
Roosters,
end
but
up coming back.
he'd be ideal for a year. He'd just for a year, he would. But anyway, anything else from the news, boys?
No.
Round 17 kicked off with 48-18. The Dragons went down to the Warriors, who I believe this was the third straight 20-point win from the Warriors. And as I said in a preview show, and I was very proud of my previews this week, I think I nailed all of them. And who would have thought the Broncos would have cost me the perfect round? But anyway, I like the fact the Warriors are now throwing the ball around, and they did just that, Bun.
Absolutely, they did. And it ended up being 3 tries for the Dragons, 9 for the Warriors. 3 out of 3 conversions, played 6 out of 9. 70% completion, played 72% completion. 537 plus run meters and 120 plus post-contact meters for the Warriors. 3 line breaks to 10, 27 tackle busts to 32, 7 offloads to 14. A forced dropout from the Dragons. 350 tackles, played 297. 14 errors to 12. There's a bit of a theme this weekend. Everyone just seemed to be dropping the ball every couple of minutes, but we'll push on. 2 penalties conceded by the Dragons, 4 conceded by the Warriors. 1 ruck infringement to 3 and a sin bin for the Warriors. 20 minutes into this game, I was pretty convinced that it was going to be pretty close for the majority of it. Dragons actually showed up for 15, 20 minutes and were pushing the Warriors. Couple of really nice backline movements from both sides for tries. The first one with Dallin scoring in the corner, and then Sloan and actually injecting himself for once and stepping and beating a few people. But the last hour proved to be completely different, with the Warriors just running roughshod over the Dragons for the next 60 minutes. Just 8 tries to 2 in the last hour of this match, with Dallin, with Tenny Zalesniak's bagging 4 of them. Like.
He had a lot of work to do on 3 of them too.
Yeah,
Like,
he did. Absolutely, he did.
You can't just say he wasn't
tiptoeing down sidelines and doing backflips. And
don't want to call him AJ, but he wasn't just AJing over the line.
He's been one of the best finishers in recent times. The last month or so, the way he's finished off tries has been tremendous. The ability to draw defenders and catch and pass across the back line was fantastic from the Warriors in this game. What really struck a chord with me was the way that Chance was introducing himself into the line. It wasn't just always that overplay where you just run flat out and try to pick up men on the outside. He was playing with a bit of subtlety in the way that he engaged defenders. One time he'd burn them on the outside, the next time he'd hold up the play and really draw 2 and 3 defenders on the inside shoulder, and then once engaged, he'd hit the men on the outside. I really enjoyed the way that he was engaging the defensive line. We've got Mutts here. They've come.
Give them pork. Get staffies, they said. It'll be fun, they said.
Yeah, the way that
Get
he
2
was
staffies. They'll look
really
after each
joining
other.
the attacking line,
just separately.
playing fast or slow, was really impressive, I thought. And he's someone that the Raiders, I'm pretty sure, would be kicking themselves at the moment for not having at fullback for the Canberra Raiders team, because if they're missing anyone, they're missing a fullback at the moment. And he's been Chance has been fantastic for the Warriors this year.
Yeah. But what Chance chiming in this game did was free Metcalf up.
Yeah.
So they played both sides. and Metcalf looked the most dangerous he's looked, which I
absolutely.
sort of suggested. I hoped he might.
It's,
But he's got a bit of size. He just chimes in like a fullback. He's got pace.
acceleration. Yeah.
Another day he burns him on 2 of those half line breaks he makes and streaks away. And I thought this was his best first grade showing, just about.
It was fantastic.
You'd know better than me. Last year we did it at the Sharks, but it wasn't heaps.
No, he only had a couple of games.
Yeah.
There was one game that he absolutely tore it up, but he was playing centre, I'm pretty sure, in that game. So hasn't had a lot of time in the halves.
He's interesting because with Tamari, when you talk about the Tigers,
Tamari
Martin, the RTS coming back, Chanel Harris coming back,
Yep.
Maybe a Tamari might be someone you could ask about.
Yeah, or even Metcalf, depending on where
Metcalf.
they have them
I don't
in
think he's a
their
7
sittings.
whereas
but,
maybe Martin can play.
yeah.
I mean, they did ask about Johnson. Went well.
Two of the two of the moments I enjoyed more out of anything in this game was the bomb for Walker to bring it down, and then Jackson Ford to sneak up behind him and just go, "Thank you, I'll take that," and then run in the opposite direction and score underneath the post. I thought that was a very entertaining moment in this game, and the Fanua Blake set up for Sean Johnson to score the try, charging onto a short ball, dragging in defenders, and then just a beautiful round the corner offload for Sean Johnson to score a try. They were probably the 2 highlights that I took out of this game.
The way people rave about Junior Barlow's ball playing, Fanua Blake's doing, if not better than what he does.
He's doing it through the line, whereas Paulo more so backs up and drops it back out the back rather than going over the top
But
of
how
people
many,
promoting the ball.
Fanua Blake's scored 3 or 4 tries this year.
Yep.
And
set up a couple.
But he's probably got 3 or 4 try assists as well.
Yeah, absolutely. He'd probably even have more, to be honest.
Mm.
Couple of short balls, couple of offloads. He's been tremendous this year. It's been close to career best form, but even then, he's the last couple of years he's been back to back have been really good from Fanua Blake. I thought Lomax and Sloan had some nice touches. The rest of the back 5 were pretty poor for the Dragons.
The problem with Sloan is it's literally touches.
Yeah.
Like it's not.
Absolutely.
It's 2 touches. Yeah.
2 or 3 touches, and that's about it. Francis Molo and Little were 2 of the stronger forwards for the Dragons in the middle. Laurie was very good again, as he is most weeks, as was Sullivan. I thought this was one of his better games that I've seen out of him in first grade. He was dominant compared to Hunt, to be honest, in this game, and did a lot of the good things that the Dragons did. He was involved in. Jack DeBellin was their best player again. Just gets through a mountain of work.
There's 2 blokes I would even remotely rap from the Dragons, and that's DeBellin's work and Little to a lesser extent. And you're about to talk about it, so go for it.
Yeah, Jack DeBellin just again up 40 plus tackles, continually taking the ball up when nobody else is interested in getting involved in the middle of the field. He just gets through so much work week in and week out. It's been probably 2 months now where he's just got in and done all the hard stuff that nobody else wants to do for this Dragons team, which is part of the big part of the reason why they're sitting where they're sitting on the ladder. I thought pretty much all the 17 from the Warriors were good. There wasn't really anyone that shirked their job. Dylan Walker and Sirenan were good off the bench. They had a big impact off the bench, which they do most weeks. But, yeah, they had a big impact in this game. Toru Harris and Ford were very good again, which just continually happens week after week. Ford's, I think he's pretty much modelled himself on Toru Harris. They're both playing very similar roles at the moment.
And he came from he came from the Dragons.
Yeah, he did.
And look at what
he was a prodigy. He was one of the young kids that come through.
He's now its holes as good as anyone.
Everyone was talking
Gets
about.
through work, and he's a dangerous ball runner.
Yeah, absolutely he is.
I want to wrap the other one. The other back row. I really love what Niokori's doing this year.
He just takes too many heads with him. That's
the fact he has to spend 10 minutes every game in the bin doesn't help. But again, every run counts with him. Like he did some
most of his defensive work.
But there is that sort of 40 out run, and it gets them to the 20, like it's a 15-20 metre run every time. It's just they count when he runs. He doesn't top heaps.
I think they said this week was his fifth charge, 3 high tackles and 2 dangerous contacts or something. So he's built himself a bit of a rap sheet.
It's not ideal, especially when you've got Mitch Barnett up your sleeve as well.
He is very aggressive in what he does, and he does it well.
But he's been this is better than anything he ever produced for Para.
And Toru Harris was struggling for the majority of the game. He was hobbling around for good parts of the time he was out there, but still did plenty of work. I think he got a 15-minute rest at the end, but probably well due. You might even need a game off shortly, but we'll see what happens there. Chance and Metcalf, as we mentioned, were very important in the attack for the Warriors, but it was Sean Johnson and Fanua Blake again.
It was the Sean Johnson show.
Yeah.
And it was laid, but the platform was laid, but he was absolutely fantastic. His kicking was...
It was the Dallin show. Dallin was the one putting on the show, but Sean Johnson was the one just feeding him little half volleys so he could smack him over
Even
the
Mariah
fence.
was impressed by Dallin, weren't you?
Lionel Richie doing backflips, scoring tries.
Dallin
lovely.
with Tenny Zalesniak on Thursday night. The Warriors winger.
But yeah, Sean Johnson and Fanua Blake were the ones
Oh, no,
that
you weren't even home.
constructed everything through the middle of the field for this team.
Just Dallin around. Oh,
Right.
she controls the dogs, at least. Anyway. Go on.
No, as I said, Sean Johnson and Fanua Blake were the ones in the middle of the field that were constructing everything that was going on good for the guys outside them. So.
Jeez, yeah. Sean Johnson, career best form.
It's
I
getting
know
to that point, yeah.
and he had a rough first 20 minutes. First 20,
I think the first 3 or 4 games
and
he
then-
was a bit iffy as well, but ever
but
since
once he
sort
clicked
of
in
round
this
5
game,
or whatever it
and
is.
once they got the ascendancy, he was just superb. Everything he touched turned to gold. Even when it didn't, when he touched it and someone else snatched it, it turned to gold. So, as you said, he was brilliant. I mentioned the word Tigers forward pack. What was about a month ago? Are they the best? And they've fucked it all up ever since. Not through the fault of their own. It's through everyone else around them, mainly their management. Is this the best forward pack in the comp?
Yes, unless everyone in the Brisbane pack's going at the same time.
This is the best forward. I agree with you. You know what the Warriors are, and it hit me in this game. The Warriors are the team. Warriors will make the grand final. I'm not saying they're going to win the
very
comp,
close.
but they feel like the grand final team. They feel like they feel. How do you say this?
The
feel
semi-final team, the team you got to get past.
they
to get to
feel
the
like
grand
the
final.
pantomime to the like the pantomime bad guy in when whoever wins the comp, they're going to have to beat the Warriors. Like every year, there's always, and it's usually the Warriors. Like for the time, it's usually the Warriors. Last year was Parramatta. They're that team that makes it, but no one really thinks they're going to win the comp. But I think they're going to win. I can see them making a grand final. And they can win they can win the comp.
You know what you've
but I
just
don't-
done to them?
Yeah, they're dead.
They're going to miss the 8.
Look
now.
at South. Souths are going to win the comp 2
3
months
weeks
ago. They haven't won a
yeah,
game
4
since.
weeks ago.
Brisbane the wheels have just fallen off and fucking hell. But the Warriors, I can see going all the way.
You declared the Broncos last year, wasn't it? They won 1 game after you
Won
declared
one
them
game
to win
after
the
that,
comp.
and I declared South they've won one game
About a
since.
month ago, yeah.
So if you got Betfair, just get on over my mouth. But they can make it. I just see them as a grand final team now. They got every piece that you need. Great fullback, great halves. Not a championship.
Yeah, I think
yet, but
they
can
win
grow
the
into it.
the first week of the finals, and then you stack
If you
up
get
where they're at.
if you get
after
into
that.
if you get into one of those shitty prelim finals where it's just a slog, the forward pack can dig them through it. If it's one where they blow open, they can score points. Yeah, they you'd probably like an A grade centre to declare them as a great team, but their centres are more than serviceable.
doing a job.
So I am calling it here. I'm not saying they're going to win the comp, but I think they'll make the grand final. There you go.
I gave Dallin 3 points. I had Fanua Blake for the 2, actually, just because of the amount of work he got through. And I thought he was instrumental at the very beginning of this game, laying the platform and busting holes in the middle of the field to get them to where they needed to be. And then Sean Johnson, who just tuned everything up with the 1 point. But
I'm with you. The 3 I had for 1 were I had the interchangeables. The 2 you had mentioned were Tohu and Chance. Honorary mention Chance, and Tohu gets the Tohu award every week.
absolutely.
So I'm happy to go with that.
Stop asking so many fucking questions.
Yes, I recorded that. Yes, everyone agrees. All right, 48-18. 48-20 was the score in the Parramatta game. Parramatta, I think it was 42-4 at half time, and then the queue
was.
well and truly went into Rackburn. What did the stats say?
4 tries to 8, 2 out of 4 conversions, played 8 out of 8. 63% completion for the Dolphins, 81% for the Parramatta side. 688 plus running metres and 193 plus post-contact metres. For the Eels, 4 line breaks to 12, 24 tackle busts to 26. They must have just been scoring untouched.
Yeah, and they were.
Because they weren't
I feel
breaking
like-
tackles, they're just
Okay,
scoring
look.
without anyone touching
I
them.
feel like Fucking Penasini had 26 tackle busts in his 2 tries.
Absolutely.
So-
Anyway, 4 offloads to 13, 1 forced dropout from the Dolphins, 3 from Parramatta. 359 tackles, played 251, 12 errors to 9, 2 penalties conceded to 3. The attitude was completely different between these two sides. For the first 10 minutes or so, it was competitive. Young McGrady scored early, and looks like he's got a decent pair of feet on him. Some good movement, and obviously a later debut, 26 or whatever. But you should see a couple of years out of him between now and the end of his career in first grade, I would imagine.
But it's hard to they're hard to. I was actually I just thought about asking you that, and they But what do you say? He finished well. He'll be fine. He'll be fine.
He seems strong enough. Got some decent footwork. It just depends where he fits in the first grade side somewhere. Someone will pick him up as a starting centre, I would imagine, or a winger at some point. As soon as Parramatta scored their first try, Dolphins just seemed to fucking go, oh, well, here we go. This is going to happen again, and we're just going to get rolled again. For the third week in a row, I think it is, that they've just basically turned up. And, that'd make old man Wayne happy. I'm sure he'd be doing backflips about their attitude for the last 3 weeks. Because that's what they've built their season on. They've been so good during this year based on attitude and, grit and determination. And it's gone out the window the last 3 weeks. I'm not sure what's going on there.
Tank's empty. I told you.
Yeah. You're probably correct. It seems that way anyway. You do have to commend Parramatta, though. Some of the line running that they were doing early in this game was fucking ferocious. Like, they were hitting the ball at such pace that I don't think many teams would have stopped them at different times. The way Penasini was coming onto the ball for his 2 tries, as you mentioned, just leaving blokes in their wake. Hopgood was fantastic in the middle of the field in this game. He opened them up himself a couple of times as well, which led directly to points for himself.
That was soft stuff though. Like the Bromwiches and.
But that offload for the first one, short ball, for the first one, and the line that was run there was fantastic. I think he put Cartwright away, who in turn put Penasini away down the other side of the field as well. He was amazing in this game. He's been a worker for a long time, but you can just see there's a bit of subtlety in some of the ball skills he's got as well, which is really coming to the fore.
And I think that's how you players like that, and especially these ball playing looks, you build your foundations first. You look at even your Carrigans and Yos, you build your foundations, and then once you know your game back the front, you add the subtleties to it.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And he's doing that. He's doing it, and he's doing it very quickly.
Yeah, they did demolish this Dolphins defensive lines in the first half, obviously, until, as you said, they shut up shop in the second half and didn't really seem all that interested in trying to put on 60 or 70, which I think they could have if they really come out and put it away with it. But even when they're getting dominated, somehow Asako and Hammer seem to find a way into the game. It doesn't matter how badly they're getting beaten. Hammer just seems to find a try, and Asako seems to be able to make line breaks and run 50 metres and put other people away for tries. I love the way that Hamaso runs. He just looks so balanced. It just looks like perfection when he gets away and in the clear. He's just so balanced, and the way he moves is so smooth. There's not really many blokes to mention out of this Dolphins side. Not many of them did great. As I mentioned, McGrady was pretty nice to boo. Valence Tafare had a decent game. He had a couple of nice touches.
Just found himself in the right place to really do damaging runs at the right time.
Absolutely.
Which is half the problem.
Kenny Bromwich was very good, I thought. And Jesse Bromwich and Asako were even better. But Hammer was the most productive and the most threatening player from the Dolphins side. Simonson and Arcee did a nice job out on the edges there for Parramatta. Paulo and Cartwright were very good, but Gutho and Penasini were excellent. They just seemed to be causing all sorts of problems, especially down that right edge, which the left edge in defence for the Dolphins, they carved that side up. And then Moses and Hopgood were just brilliant.
Yeah.
What they did in the middle of the field was similar to Fanua Blake and Johnson in the previous game, where one set the foundation and the other one just jumped on the back of it and did all the constructive ball playing on the back of that. So
thanks, bud. You've left no meat in the bones for me because you've covered everything there. So I don't know what to add. You're right. Yes, that is what happened. Gutho is now. I said it that week. Like, he's going to run the Quinella in the Dally M.
You're going to get close.
Can't see how he doesn't win. If he doesn't, Sean Johnson does, because they're both
Origin. I didn't give him a point here, but
I did. But we can debate it. I actually gave Penasini 3. There you go. Huh? I thought he was brilliant. I thought he's line running, the fact he. No, actually, I gave Gutho 3, but you've turned me off it a little bit. But his line, the way he hit holes, like I said, he's tackle busting. He broke more than 3 tackles. I know that. Right place, right time, pace. A couple of nice hits in defence. He just produced as good a centre game as you'll see until the next game, actually. But I assume you're going to give Hopgood 3.
Yeah, I thought
that's
Hopgood
fine.
was fucking tremendous in this
I
game.
will allow you to do that.
Especially early in the game when it was sort of a bit competitive. He was the guy that was, throwing short balls to put people away and then busting the line off his own bat. Made up near 40 tackles, I'm pretty sure, as well, without too many misses. And some of his ball playing was fantastic. I had Penasini for 2, and then I had either Moses, Hammer, or Gutherson for the 1. But
give it to Gutho because well, end of the day, when he put 40 points in the first half, he was involved in the first 20, and I sort of am leaning that way. You had a question for us? Just the thing you asked us before about Para and winning the comp and shit.
Oh, yeah. So one of
mate.
my associates
job.
at work, he rates. He's a Para fan, and he thinks if they finish top 4, they're going to run away with it. They'll win the premiership if they finish top 4. It might be a bit of a struggle if it's just top 8, but top 4, he's confident that they're going to run away with it. He doesn't rate Panthers being the 3-peat champions, but he thinks Eels, the way they're going, if they peak at the right time, he's confident Gutho's going to get him over the line.
they've put together a good month of footy, a very good month of football, considering where they've come from. They were diabolical at the start of the year. They couldn't beat time with a stick for the first 5 or 6 weeks of this competition. I think a bit of that's got to do with a dummy half moving on and a young fella coming through to create
Amazing, isn't
a
it?
bit more ball speed in and around the ruck.
Yeah.
But at their absolute best, Parramatta is as good a shot as anyone. If they can get themselves to a grand final and in form and not put up another performance like they did in the grand final last year, I can see them getting very close. I'm still not completely sold that they win the comp.
I would call Parramatta and I hate to say it because it's a bit of a cliche, I would call Parramatta the complete dark horses that, yes, they can beat anyone in a day, and they can make the top 8 because I think the wheels are about to fall off a lot of teams, and are.
Absolutely.
And they'll be fine during that. They've got a workhorse pack that's now clicking. Joffa's a biggie. Joffa will get them through some tough times as we get deeper into those games as well. He hasn't played a lot yet, but when you look at the bench, even with Madison and Offengower coming on, be able to play, they can both play 80 if they need to, but being able to play 45 to 60 at high quality, rest their props, and they're throwing Cartwright, who's good. You got Sean Lane to come back, who was back row of the year last year, just about, and Hopgood's work. I can absolutely see them going deep. It would need to be, if I was going to, we'll put it this way, I would tip the Warriors against them right now.
There's not any team in this comp at the moment that
there's no
see
standout
as the winner.
You can only if you're going to say it's Penrith, I wouldn't argue, but Penrith aren't. They just factually aren't as good as they were last year.
No Cleary at the moment as well.
But they've been winning, which is the main thing. But if Para get into a weird game where it's a Para style game where it's 36-32 and last try wins, they can win a comp in that way. I think that's their go.
As you know, the finals is a completely different comp again. So it all starts again. Once you get to finals time, you can forget about everything that's happened.
And the old cliche, you're always better for the one you lose, and yada yada.
If Para find themselves in the grand final, I think they win it. I think they win it against anybody. They're smarter from their loss.
If they win the comp this year or next, the conversation seriously needs to be had about whether Mitchell Moses is better than Nathan Cleary.
Definitely, I agree.
If they were to win the comp, not saying right now, I'm not. Please do not quote me. Don't get angry, Penrith fans. I'm saying
with
should
the premiership
that
behind
happen,
them, with the premiership behind them,
you need to
got to have the
question.
conversation. Definitely.
That'll get people angry for no apparent reason. The Penrith Panthers played next, though. They beat the Newcastle Knights, much to Christian Walsh's surprise, 20-12. And he wasn't wrong. They had no one.
No,
so Penrith Reserve grade 20-12 over Newcastle. Stats, man.
4 tries to 2, 2 out of 4 conversions, played 2 out of 2 for Newcastle side. 90% completion from the Panthers, 62% for the Knights. 542 plus running metres and 150 plus post-contact metres for the Penrith side. 5 line breaks to 3, 59 tackle busts to 45. So I would have hated to be the bloke to keep keep score of the missed tackles in this game because you got over 100 there.
He's out with RSI now.
10 offloads to 13. 3 forced dropouts from the Penrith side. 307 tackles, played 397. 9 errors to 14. 1 penalty conceded by Penrith. 6 conceded by Newcastle. 2 ruck infringements against Penrith. 2 inside the 10 against Newcastle side. And Hetherington managed to get himself sin binned once again.
I'm sure he's a nice fellow off the field. I'll just leave it as that.
Mate, he does some stupid shit.
Yeah, I'll just leave it as that.
I think Newcastle would have been disappointed. They let in a couple
how
of
can you
soft
not be
tries in this one,
disappointed?
to be honest. Like
Sorry, just looking. Sorry to cut you off there. On
No,
sets.
no,
Adam
no.
Elliott missed 12 tackles. Did you mention it?
No.
Adam Elliott missed 12 tackles.
Wow.
Ponga 8, Gamble 8, Kurt Mann 5, which is good for him.
It is good for him.
Hastings 5, which is bad for him actually. They all missed plenty. This was a bad effort, and
But even giving away that field position and the possession to Penrith by missing those tackles in the middle of the field, some of these tries should never have been scored in first grade.
no,
Like the ball bounces down and there's one Newcastle player there and there's 3 Penrith players there and so Peachy ends up scoring that one. There's a dive over from dummy half which gets me every time, especially when you've got 2 guys set down low. Occasionally you sneak one, but for it to happen week in week out against your side, that just tells me there's an effort and a responsibility that somebody's not taken to get down and make sure that doesn't happen, because he had to struggle his way over the line too. It wasn't like he just busted clear and got in from dummy half. He had to push his way over 2 and 3 blokes to get there. Penrith were very good in the fundamentals. They went back to their traditional keep hold of the ball, kick him to death, beat them by 1,000 cuts, and they did. They wore them down, and by the end of the game, Newcastle had nothing left. And that's when Penrith aren't exactly humming in attack, that's what they do. They lock up the ball, play field position and possession, and they did that quite well. But Newcastle didn't look threatening at all in this game. Again, they're missing a 13 or a 6, one of the two. They're missing a link. Yeah, well, both. But one of them would help at least. Like there's a link between the dummy half, it gets to the 7, and then there seems to be nothing with Ponga floating out wide. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it doesn't get there fast enough, or it gets mixed up with the front row or a back row getting in the way and the ball hits the ground, or it doesn't hit Ponga when it should for them to be able to link up with the guys out wide. Half of me says that Hastings would be better off just kicking it Dom Young for most of
Every
the game.
time, yeah.
Like just bob it over there to that big bloke and hope that he catches it, or just really get it put through the hands and try to get Marzu to barge over somebody on the other wing, because there doesn't seem to be much else happening for this attack in the Newcastle side.
that is their attack. Their attack is okay. Just
Oh, and Frizzell tries to hit a hole every now and then, but
we've now seen Hastings for 2 years, and he got his first try here, so good for him,
he did.
and well deserved. It's been his first try since he's come back from England. Is he a 7
Yeah, I think so.
in a good team? It'd be a good 7 for the Tigers.
He's got a pretty decent kick game. Defends fair enough. His running game leaves a bit to be desired, but if you're on the front foot, that comes a little bit easier. So
Surely
They're not getting on the front
Lockie
foot.
Miller.
I don't know why he's not getting a crack. I really don't.
Like they don't know. But in terms of, so back to your first thing. 'cause
Well, you put him in
I don't know
up
how to
against
analyse this
Tyson
'cause
Gamble at the moment.
I'm going to ask you a question. I hate me asking you questions. It's on record.
Go ahead.
But this team went from, and I am on record of saying in about round 6, this was one of my favourite teams to watch this year.
Yeah, they were attacking
To
powerhouse at the start of the year.
block,
Yeah.
nothing. They don't know what they're doing. Don't know where they're going. How did the team lose that?
What happened?
Ponga came back.
Ponga came back. Like, don't get me wrong. He's been, when he is effective, he's very good. But they know exactly what's happening.
Yeah, sweet.
With Miller there, they didn't. Miller was getting into the middle of the field. He wasn't scared to take it through the guts occasionally. If there was an inside ball, he'd be there to take that. You don't see Ponga backing up on the inside from the forwards. You just don't see it. All you see is the sweep on either side and a cutout pass, which Miller had as well. But Miller didn't mind cutting back on an angle and taking a hit where you don't see it from Ponga. So they already know what shape's coming just about every time that Newcastle get the ball out past the 7. So
they're not going to move Hastings, but as I said last year, there is a school of thought that I've read, and a very good school of thought that Hastings would be a great dummy half.
Yep.
But then move him maybe they've got to, and I never want to suggest anyone needs to be out of a job or that they're not a good footballer. They're all much better footballers than we'll ever be.
Absolutely.
But is it time to forget Kurt Mann, forget Phoenix Crossland, or back Phoenix Crossland elsewhere,
Well, Crossland's been
and
going
try,
all right
and
at
try
9,
gamble
but
at 9? Gamble at 9 and then try and get try Lockie Miller at 6 for a game. Like, you've got nothing to lose now.
I don't understand why they haven't tried it already.
And we're also now 4 years into our good mate Adam O'Brien's coaching career. And I suggest he won't be employed next year should this continue. We've said that before.
I'm very surprised Holbrook got the arse first, to be honest.
Well, yeah. I know we haven't analysed this game particularly, but I don't have much to say about the game. They played like dog shit.
Well, neither team really took any sort of advantage to being in good field position. They both really struggled in attack, and they struggled even worse in defence. It was a pretty much a bludger of a game, this one. There's a couple of guys who had some really nice efforts, but the attack was just so poor. Like whenever they were in good field position, it just got shut down. Whether it was errors or just miscommunications or blokes running around in circles and getting tackled, it was just a continuum of that happening time and time again for both sides.
The two most dangerous players for Penrith were the centres.
Yeah,
Tango and Tyrone Peachy's now suddenly a world beat. Suddenly in New South Wales form now. He's not wearing orange and black. And Tango was 10 tackle busts. He was fantastic getting in and doing.
He tried his absolute ass off. I don't think I've ever seen him do as much work as he did in this game. To be honest with Isaac Targo. Gagai and Crossland were busy for Newcastle, but really had no punch sort of anywhere else. Marzu was the best of the back five again, 200 plus running meters, just coming in and doing that dummy half work that nobody else seems to want to do. Jacob Saifidi had a decent game, so did Hastings, but there was nothing else around them. Young Dylan Lucas had a very impressive game again.
He's had a decent.
He's up near 50 tackles again for the third week in a row, I think it is, and probably even a cheapie to look at in Supercoach if you want someone who's going to be putting out 50 and 60 each week at a pretty cheap price. Maybe someone you might bring in.
No, good shout.
It's sort of past that point of the season now, but for a cheap price, why not? Frizzell was the best night. Like Tyson Frizzell was the best for Newcastle by a fair way. He has been for the majority of the season. You know what you're going to get out of him. Fisher Harris and Hoskins had big games for Penrith, I thought. They had a big impact on the way this went in the middle of the field. Sorensen and Edwards were fantastic again. They just very, very rarely miss a beat. The
rise of Sorensen to a first-picked back rower is fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's actually the sort... People are getting about this. If you're picking a New South Wales team and you got Yo Murray, you got same on the bench. Sorensen's someone with footwork and a point of difference that could actually maybe be different.
Hopgood, Sorensen,
Hopgood's
similar sort of mould. Yeah. Oh yeah, Hopgood is a Queenslander. Yeah, but Sorensen, absolutely.
Gets the line, can skip,
bit of extra
can barrel
pace
through, can offload, can do everything. He's just fantastic this year.
Yep. You mentioned Targo and Peachy. They had a real big impact on this game. I thought Cogger was critical in this game. His kicking game was fantastic again. I've mentioned it for the last 3 weeks since he's been in that halfback role. While he doesn't get in there and do all the dirty stuff in the middle of the field and he's not throwing flashy cutout passes, everything he does is pretty clinical, especially his kicking game was fantastic again.
Well, the Tigers have inquired, so hey. Whatever that means. Yeah.
I had Peachy with 3.
I did too, and we should spend more time on that. He breaks tackles. He was throwing blokes around. His defence, he was stopping them down.
Yeah.
Both 2 tries or a try and assist?
Trying to try assist.
Were both single efforts. Like he just said, "Fuck it, I'll just borrow and go here." And I agree. Tyrone Peachy deservedly 3 points.
I had Cogger with the 2. His kicking game and the way he got him around the field.
Peachy's now putting Sonny Luke in jeopardy because once they're full strength. You'd keep him at 14.
Sonny Luke's putting himself in a bit of jeopardy as well.
He hasn't. He just re-signed, so good on him. He's getting paid.
He hasn't set the world on fire at all. And I had Targo or Frizzell for the 1.
Yeah, Tango.
Probably go with Targo. Yep. Tango.
Agree. 24-6. This game took forever to get going. Not necessarily in a bad way, but that was Melbourne defeating the Seagulls here, who again proved to have not much left in the tank once the fire was put to the belly. But what did the stats say?
We had 5 tries to 1, 2 out of 5 conversions played, 1 out of 1 for Manly. 79% completion, played 76%, 181 running meters, Positive for the Storm side, 6 line breaks to 4. What the hell have I written down here? 30 tackle busts to 40, 6 offloads to 9, 1 forced drop out to 3, 360 tackles played, 306 for the Manly side, 11 errors to 10, 4 penalties conceded from both sides, 2 ruck infringements against both sides. It's a bit of a rough and tumble for the first 15 minutes, that feeling out period that you get generally between two teams that are a little apprehensive and don't want to throw the ball around too much at the start of the game. Really went at each other through the middle of the field. I think DCE's kicking game probably kept Manly in the game more in that 15 minutes than their forwards did.
Oh,
I thought
absolutely.
Storm absolutely.
And the first try was
Storm
DCE.
did have the edge there in the forward pack, but DCE's kicking game got them the field position that they needed to get down there, and the nice little grubber for Hamole to score the first try, and Manly didn't look like scoring another point for the rest of the game. They were on the back foot for the entirety, just working through their defence. Garrick, I think, saved 3 or 4 tries off his own bat in this game.
Yes.
They were absolutely carved open, and Garrick somehow managed to make a one-on-one tackle and put someone into touch or just completely stop them dead. He was he was the best for Manly, I think, in this game. He was fantastic. But yeah, he saved them from getting embarrassed, I thought. I thought this could have been 50 or 60.
It probably should have been. I've just realised Luke Brooks' issue. He's gone from one club with terrible salary cap management, an average at best roster by the large part carried by 4 blokes, to another club that's going to have average poor salary cap management, probably a coaching change in the next 2 years, losing a world-class halfback, a fullback that's never on the field. Like, on paper, it looks rosy, like Brooks DCE Turbo, amazing. But most of the time, it's going to be Brooks, Schuster, Tuipulotu, and a bunch of geeks. He's getting paid, so again, more power to him. But man, this team
might be hanging around here somewhere.
Jake will make some tackles, which is always nice. But this team adds nothing, and really, when they're at their best, they do. But here, they have nothing to the imagination.
They've been at their best maybe 4 times this year, I think,
And won by 50.
4 of them were pretty resounding wins, but every other time they seem to get beaten, and beaten pretty comprehensively, which happened in this game. I thought Warbrick again put in another good shift. That pass that he threw out of his ass back for Jerome Hughes to score the first try was very good.
But he's now fulfilling everything we thought he would in pre-season when we were like all over him for Supercoach, and he said because he's a big body, he's a tackle breaker, he's physical, and he's very timid to start with. But now he is everything we hoped he'd be.
He was just trying to sort of catch and dive over the line, but now he's quite happy to take on 3 blokes and throw them around a bit. As I mentioned, Garrick saved probably 3 or 4 tries in this game, but just to go back to something you said earlier, he was Harvey Norman when Nelson went through the fucking line.
Don't blame him.
Absolutely no interest. Oh, Jesus, he stepped me. Oh, my God, no. He stepped off the right foot and gone past me. I can't touch him.
Oh, no.
I can't get in front of him and try to stop him. Oh, no. That was tremendous. The way he just went through the line, and Garrick just sort of was running. You see him sort of go, should I turn back inside here? And he just went, nah, fuck that. I'm not getting in front of this bloke. I'll just pretend I got beaten with the sidestep. It was pretty good. Manly did really have a go. Like, at times they were really, putting in a lot of effort, but they just could not go anywhere near this this Melbourne side. Jerome Hughes was on another planet. He was fantastic in this game. His kicking game was sublime. Some of his running and passing was fantastic as well, and he was a big part of pretty much every try that they scored. There would have been probably been a real close game without Jerome Hughes out there, to be honest. But
sevens are now it's now quarterback level.
Getting close
in NFL, and it's, as I said it in a few weeks back in the Tigers Melbourne game. If Hughes plays for Tigers, they probably win that game. You see it here, different here because they had DC, but man, there's a different class. Right. But you see it, the best 5 halfbacks in the game end up being the top 5 in when we get to the end of the year. You'll see.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's why Sean Johnson's now on fire. So Warriors are now finished top 4.
The defensive collapses for Manly again were pretty worrying if you're the coach. The amount of times they got broken open in the middle of the field, and
you know who the defensive
couple
coach
times on the edges. Madge. No? Who's that?
Flanagan.
Oh, good.
So he'll fix all the Dragons' problems next year.
That's right.
Madge is down at Canberra.
Madge is down
We'll
at
get to
Canberra.
him.
Well, they've been okay. defence.
Yeah, they've been all right in defence.
But yeah, they just kept happening again, similar to last week, especially back through the middle of the field with the changes of angles. They just don't seem to be able to move sideways at all, and then they get caught out from it. I thought Woods was okay off the bench for Manly. Crocker and Paseka were good. DCE's kicking was about the most impressive thing of the night, apart from Ruben Garrick. Olakawadu did his job. He wasn't overly impressive. Garrick worked all night and was easily their best. Warbricks and Coates were very good for Melbourne. They both finished well. Didn't have to do much apart from jump over people. Warbrick's pass was nice back to Hughes, but Grant was decent without being, he hasn't been himself this year. He hasn't been dominating games like he did last year, but we may see that in the next month or so, but we'll see what happens there. Josh King, Welch and Nelson Asofa Solomona were brilliant in this game, and they set this game up for the Melbourne Storm, and Hughes jumped off on the back of that and did all the fancy stuff to put the guys over for points.
The other bloke, any other one you haven't mentioned, again, you haven't left much for me, but I really like Pezet's day out. He looks silky at times. He's fast, as that last try suggested, but even that kick that just the time of that kick to set up for the one in the corner. I know there's a bit of luck involved, but that was a nice kick. Just some silky. Silky's the word that comes to mind.
He did sit back at times, but what he did was very polished.
But that's his job. Like he's not here to. But again, if you're a club out there looking to find a half, you do worse than go and invest in someone.
He put
like
some
him.
Guys through holes, put in some really nice kicks. Some very nice polished work.
No, he was good here. But I assume you're going to. Where do you take from this? So the Seagulls don't worry about the Storm rolls on.
Yeah, I don't think so.
They just go onwards and upwards, and in a comp where everyone's falling apart, they're just again going to be the stock standard Storm.
Yeah, somewhere between third and sixth, I would imagine at the moment. They're going to be good enough to beat 90% of the competition on most weekends. Throw Munster in on fire and Grant on fire, they're going to challenge anyone at their absolute best. So
I think they're a good.
We had big question marks around their front row, but around the middle of the field. But Nas has been supporting them quite well on his own. Welch now is starting to come into some really good form, and Josh King has just gone to another level. He's now rubber stamped himself as a first.
But
top
once
grade
you get into those deep prelim final fights, Tarek Sims is someone that's been there, done it, and I think we'll have two more fight. Not as good as I once was.
You might see, 20 minutes of some games where they do get dominated in the middle of the field, and that's where teams are going to have to.
But it's happened less this year than it happened last year when they had a better forward.
And teams are going to have to be good enough to sort of strike when that does happen. But
got your Katoa at some point will come back too. They feel very much. They actually, I think they're quite comparable to Para. Everything we said about Para, you said about them. And they're probably a safer bet.
The pack's probably not as good, but they've got a bit more strike in them.
Their style of play, a wacky, loose game is right up Munster and Hughes' alley.
Chuck a Pappenhausen in round 22 or something?
Yeah, I don't reckon he plays this year.
I don't think he does either, but they keep saying he's coming back. So.
Yeah, we've got to say something. I assume you're giving 3 to Hughes, are you?
Yeah, I am. I had Jerome Hughes as the man of the match. I had Nelson as the second option, and then I had 3 guys to pick from out of Welch, King, or Garrick for the one.
That's a good one. Give it to Walsh, because I think Walsh has been low-key good this year, and we haven't really, us prop lovers haven't really paid him due respect.
Last month he's been getting better week after week.
The game where he took on, was it the Titans? He went toe-to-toe. He was good, and I think ever since he's fired up a bit. And he's still up Queensland sleeve in case he ever needs someone. Poor buggers. I just watched Dave Warner try and slog sweep someone. I thought it must be a road, and I realised it was Ollie Robinson bowling. So fair enough. He was just, and then he just dropped it. Ball's doing a bit off Broad.
Yeah.
I like Stuart Broad. There you go.
There you
a bit
go.
Controversial.
As a bowler,
reminds me of the old Dagster back in the day. Similar action. What could have been, eh? 18-12. My round was ruined by the Broncos, who lost to the Titans. Probably shouldn't have, in fairness, but what did the stats say?
Yeah, we had 2 tries to 3, 2 out of 2 conversions, played 2 out of 3 for the Titans, and 1 out of 1 penalty attempt for the Titans. 80% completion from both teams, 6 line breaks to 5, 48 tackle busts, played 44, 14 offloads for the Broncos, 6 for the Titans. A forced dropout from the Broncos side, 330 tackles, played 311, 11 errors to 12, 7 penalties conceded to 4, 2 ruck infringements to 4. This game was a bit of a hard watch, I thought, at times.
Yes. Apologies to everyone I just burped in their ear. I thought I was on mute. I generally did, but Alex was on mute, so apologies for that. Anyway, carry on.
It's a bit of a hard watch, I think, at times. Everything just seemed, as soon as anything seemed to start to happen, it just broke down through penalties, errors, ruck infringements, all that kind of rubbish. It just really stopped the flow of the game.
First half, I don't necessarily want to call him a cunt, but am I allowed to say that on this show? I've never said that on this show.
No, you've never said this.
But I don't think it was Chris Butler's best showing, in fairness.
He seems to have a habit of letting teams get away with too much shit in the ruck, to be honest, and it just makes the game.
Well, it makes games worse because then it niggles through the back. But then the back end, realistically, Brisbane should have won this game by fucking 18 points. And they had, I don't say 18, 12. I'm going to say 12. 6, but they should have won this game. They had, 3 disallowed in about 10 minutes. A drop ball led to a Pereira try. Admittedly, so did Titans, but there was so much garbage that led to it all that it just made for a bad game.
Yeah, just going on the back of that, as you said, there's a bit of niggle, especially at the start of the game, and a lot more by the time this game finished. No matter how bad the Titans are going, they just always seem to match up whenever they play the Broncos. They could be running absolutely last, and they always come out and give the Broncos a run for their money. And I think they've actually got a winning record over them recently, which is something funny.
Yeah, big ones too. Yeah,
considering
even
how
last year,
poor
the biggest
they've been.
Arco game and all that sort. Yeah.
They just seem to always show up for the Broncos. And
Right, this day you should
them
keep
their
a Mark Lambon style book of pearls.
Yeah.
Because you're right.
Last 2 or 3 years, they've just
Canberra over the Sharks.
never tip them. Canberra over the Sharks. Very physical game for the majority of it, with the forwards being highly involved, because every time it seemed to get out past the halves, it just broke down, as I said earlier, with errors and errors and penalties and all the rest of that kind of stuff. Broncos did a pretty good job on Fafita, I thought, for a large part of the game.
I was slightly baffled by the fact they said Fafita was like God's gift to football in this game. He was good, but he wasn't. I mean, he had some key
We won
touches.
the Titans game, realistically.
It was that. It was that.
10 minutes either side of half time, he absolutely terrorised Ricky, Ezra Mam, and Tony Staggs out there. He ran through all 3 of them to score a try on his own. And then 3 minutes or 4 minutes into the second half, he's run through 2 of them and then thrown an offload for the bloke to score outside him. And he was a big part of 12 points for the Titans when they really needed it. He was kept quiet for a big part of the game, but that 20-minute period, 10 minutes either side of half time, he absolutely bossed those blokes out there for the Broncos side. Where were we?
You know who wasn't kept quiet for 70 minutes of the game?
Carrigan.
My other man.
Who you got?
You sang a fucking song about him.
No. Yeah, we'll get to him. He was fantastic again through the middle of the field. As I said, he needs one more dimension in him. He needs an offload or a bit of a step or something, but he works so hard through the middle of the field. It's fantastic. Pereira burnt Cobbo, left him standing still. I didn't think he was that much quicker than him off the mark, but clearly he is. That standing start and just went completely past him and left him standing there.
He'd been in the conversation for quickest in the comp.
Over 30 or 40 at least. Walsh might be up there too, but he was completely uninvolved in this game apart from getting himself a 3-week suspension, which was obviously good for the Broncos.
Fuck those wheels.
Ezra had a really nice individual effort to score a try. A couple of really nice touches in this game again. He's growing into being a top quality 5'8" in the NRL. Looked like the Broncos were back into it, as you mentioned. The last 20 minutes, they just expected them to come home and win this game.
Even they had 3 disallowed, and I was still sitting in that hammock right there, going, they're still going to win by 6. They'll still win this game.
They're breaking them open and causing all sorts of problems. But there was some really nice scramble as well from the Titans, to be honest. They did shut them down a couple of times where they could have scored tries and they didn't. Broncos probably made a few errors at the back end of the game, which sort of cost them in that last 10-minute period.
Well, you mentioned Cobbo. He looked like he was about to run 100 metres, and he ran behind Reece Walsh. He smacked 4 blokes away. runs right behind Walsh, penalty Titans, and that was the game.
That was that got them out to the 6-point lead, which they hung on to. You have to give Titans a bit of credit for that scramble and
I do,
being
absolutely.
able to hold in, for especially that last 10 minutes when all the pressure was on them. Herbie was the best of the back line for the Broncos again. He's
Yep.
he's just turned into a different player this year. He's happy to take all the hard stuff as well, and I can't wait till he has one of those games where he gets 2 or 3 tries to back up the effort that he's put in him week in and week out. Be a massive day for Herbie when that happens. But the halves were okay in attack, but they were suspect in defence. I think they both missed 5 or 6 tackles, which led to big breaks in their defence and let the Titans down the other end of the field. Haas, Ricky and Flegler were all real strong again for the Broncos, which they rely on these days because there's a few blokes out there that like to take 10 and 15-minute periods out of the game and not really get too involved. Which is funny because it wasn't happening at the start of the year, but the last couple of weeks it's starting to creep in there for these Broncos team. Carrigan was brilliant.
My other man, yes.
Yeah, he was absolutely fantastic and by far the best of the Broncos. Calm Pereira and Kelly had some, probably the best of the backs for the Titans.
When you say, you mean the Broncos forwards or everyone?
No, I think he was. Who else? Maybe
Reece
apart
Walsh,
from
on
Herbie.
a different day, Reece Walsh has 3 try assists. Like, legit. Has a try and 3 try assists. I don't want to argue because who cares?
No, but I think he what do you have? 2
But
errors.
if you said, yeah, I know. If
3
you said
weeks
Carrigan,
suspension.
sorry. called Chris Butler a cunt. Just want to say it again.
There's 2.
Oh, hang on, I've got a beep button.
We've said it.
He's a cunt. Sorry.
I've said it once, and Damo said it once in 3 years, and
I've
Jagg's
done
just
it.
dropped it
And
3
I fully
times.
up night. Sorry.
3
all the ladies
times
out
in the
there.
space of 10 minutes.
Our demographic isn't young women, so I think we're okay. Apologies to everyone else.
I thought both benches were okay for most teams.
There it is.
Mo, as you said, was brilliant again. Like
How
he
good was
just
he?
absolutely barrels through the middle of the ruck, and there's considering there was no Tino, he picked up part of his work as well, and just absolutely owned the middle of the field. There's a 1-man wrecking crew, and as I said, Fafita was probably the difference in that 20-minute period.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Apart from the hour that he was pretty well contained.
But for
That's-
70 minutes, for Mo to walk in that field without Tino, and do what he does every week and run over 200 and something metres, make 30-plus tackles, and just, you're right in terms of that's who he is, but it's also that's his job. But, he was phenomenal. Phenomenal.
I'm guessing you had him for 3, did you?
Yes, I guess.
I had Fafita for 3.
But you can...
And then I had
fuck him.
either Carrigan or
No,
Mo for 1.
No, I'm pitching my
for
flag.
2 and 1.
I'm pitching my flag in my tent. It's
Yeah.
going to be... But
Right.
also, anyone else want to rap?
Mo, Fafita,
really.
Carrigan, then.
AJ, we're talking about origin level. He was okay. He was okay at best, I thought. I don't think he was
Didn't have a lot of involvement.
blow away.
in
I
this
thought,
game.
well, if you're
Yeah.
comparing apples to apples, he wasn't Reece Walsh in this game.
Nope.
Shoop
better
had some
than-
nice attacking moments. Defensive, still fucking terrible. And Philip Sammy again, same. Like there's still those edges weren't they weren't exploited the way I'd hoped, and that was end of the day probably what did cost him the game really.
Broncos just didn't seem to be able to get it out there without fucking it up, to be honest.
Yeah, essentially that's it. Yeah, 3 Mo, 2 Defeater, 1 2 Carrigan.
Okay.
You okay with that?
Yep.
You can tell me I'm
I'll
wrong.
go with that.
I overread a lot, but
I had Fafita, Mo, and Carrigan, but we'll go that. We'll swap them 2 around. That's fine.
Alex, casting vote. You get to cast a vote.
Didn't watch the game.
Right. All right.
Stick
Here's
with
the
Barney.
Stick with
vote.
Barney.
It's
Stick
Mo.
with Barney.
Mo
Fuck
will
off.
do.
It's my show.
I trust Barney.
Alrighty. Third. Oh, did you see this coming?
No, not in the style that it happened. Not at all.
31-6. The Cowboys over the Bunnies. What did the stats say?
1 try out of 5, 1 out of 1 conversions for Souths, 4 out of 5 for the Cowboys. 1 penalty attempt and 1 field goal attempt for the Cowboys. 67% completion, played 84%. 364 plus running metres and 152 plus post-contact metres for the Cowboys side. 5 line breaks to 6. 24 tackle busts to 41. 8 offloads to 4. The forced dropout from the Cowboys. 391 tackles played, 284. 13 errors for South, 7 for the Cowboys. 8 penalties conceded to 4. 1 ruck infringement against the South side. Was it just me, or did Souths not look like scoring a point
No,
for
they
the
were
majority of this
awful
game?
here. They were absolutely woeful, and I can, but they've now been that bad for 6 weeks since I said they'll win the comp. Literally, they've been they were bad here.
No, Ilias looked like the only one who could throw a decent pass,
Yeah.
and Campbell Graham looked like the only bloke who was going to break a tackle.
And their plan was
Murray busted his ass in the middle of the field, but that happens every week. So
and their plan was let's try and get it to Campbell Graham sometimes, and then
kick for AJ.
kick for AJ.
Yeah.
Taff tried hard, but Taff's Taff. I don't know what Taff's probably.
He gets bashed. He puts in a few grubbers.
Taff might be a halfback. Who knows? Not a very good halfback, but he might be a halfback.
I'm pretty sure that's where he came through. As
I think he's a junior halfback. He'll probably end up playing 7 for the Tigers next year. That's fine.
Is it though?
No, it's not. But as you can tell, and I'm watching now from my mental state currently, I don't give a shit. They were they had. I don't get how you fall so many pegs in so many weeks.
Yeah, no, it's a fucking no idea. For a
And,
team that looked
and
like
their forward pack's got stronger.
top three in the competition to now looking like a team that's an also ran and wouldn't even challenge anyone in the top 8 at the moment. The way they're playing, it's
And
baffling.
they're only missing one bloke now. 2 real Richie Key. They're missing 2. I don't know what's happening. They were poor. They were poor at best.
Was Arrow there?
They're missing Arrow. They're missing got Sele. They're missing Havili, who's back this week.
But those guys aren't going to win
And
your football
Latrell.
games.
Yeah, but not from this. Latrell couldn't have won this.
Latrell
Latrell
win
would have
your
won
game,
this game.
but, yeah.
Like their forwards now, I feel like they're missing another back rower. Yeah. I don't understand it. They are actively bad now. But how do you? Maybe this is we've only showed 4 years. Maybe this is the level of NRL where nothing makes sense and
Nothing does make
points
sense.
don't
this
matter.
year. Rightio, Drew. 5-0 at half time. Wasn't even sure if the Cowboys were going to score many points.
Well,
in
it
this
didn't feel like that at all.
It didn't, did it? A sneaky little field goal at half time to put the scores at 5-0 at half time. I was scratching my head wondering where the points were going to come from, but they came from exactly where they generally do with this Cowboys side, and it was Scotty Drinkwater. He absolutely carved them up in the middle too.
Sensational. Yeah.
Like he wasn't scouting wide and putting guys over. Well, he was running through the middle of this pack and causing them all sorts of problems. Tuolangi and Holmes
Vinny
come
D
back and had
for the whole
great
season.
games.
Every time I beat him at the gums, fucking Tigers need to sign Drinkwater at half. They need to just get signed Drinkwater. Sign Drinkwater. That's all I hear every time I have a beer with him. Anyway,
We've seen him at half, and I think he's
not very
better
well.
suited at fullback.
Yeah.
He gets a bit more time to have an actual look at the defensive line and set up where he's going to
Yeah.
go. He seems a little bit rushed in the halves, but he's probably better than anyone you got there at the moment. So,
but when Cowboys are at their best, though, their roles make sense.
yeah, absolutely.
Robertson tackles his ass off, get clean distribution,
Chad
runs when he
kicks.
runs a lot. Chad kicks, Dearden runs a lot, and Drinkwater does everything else.
chimes in wherever he needs to.
And they were able to do that here.
Cowboys are much more fluent in attack, heaps stronger in defence as well. Souths got caught on the edges early with some. A couple of them were drops leading to tries, like jumping up for high balls and tapping it back, and it just ends up in the Cowboys' hands. And there's tries for the Cowboys, but they were just heaps tougher for longer. The Cowboys, like they were down for the fight, and they really owned the middle of the field. I thought for big parts of this game, apart from some Murray put on a bit of a show there at one point, and Cook was getting involved a little bit, but it was only for sort of a 10-minute period. But by the back end of this game, they would just get leaking points at will, the South Sydney team. Didn't matter what part of the field it was, they were just missing tackles and leaking points. It's something we haven't seen from him this year, but
Murray concerns me a little bit because he feels tired to me.
this was probably one of his fresher games, I thought.
But he has felt tired. And I don't know whether he needs to go back on an edge. I don't know whether work's killing him. I don't know whether the rest of the pack sucks and he's just carrying him. I don't know.
Bit of both, I think.
Tell me, David.
Yeah, pretty sure it's a bit of both at the moment. Yeah, he works himself to an absolute standstill, and
Well,
they
that's what I mean.
don't help him by giving him. Well, they were giving him time off at the start of the year, but it's just a continual pile up. I think of they were missing some of the
Of
bigger
all of the
forwards
above, yeah.
to begin with, and now they're missing a couple of their smaller forwards as well. And he's the one that's taken up the workload. I think he's had a couple of head knocks this year too, which probably
Yeah,
doesn't
so-
help. He's definitely had a few through his career.
But sometimes I wonder if teams are just better off really packing an edge and
You're probably right.
and just going, well, this is where our points are, fucking stop us. Then burn out your best player doing what he's doing. I don't know.
But he does it more in defence than anything else. Like
That's true.
he's the guy that's just mopping up all the shit in the middle of the field because nobody else could be bothered.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
I think Cook makes the tackles up front, but as soon as they sort of half get through a gap, Murray's the one who's, jumping onto the jersey or jumping in and grabbing the legs and hanging on and just hoping he survives at the end of the tackle.
Yeah.
But Graham and AJ were the best of the back five for the South side. Totola and Keon Kulamatangi were good. So was Cook. But yeah, they weren't impressive, but they did their job. Host was good off the bench, I thought. Someone they probably need to give a few more minutes to. Without Murray,
But when he started those games, he was great.
he was.
Yeah.
And considering Arrow's not there, I don't know why he's not starting. But without Murray, this probably is 50 plus. Like he cleaned up quite a few times where they started poking holes through the middle of the ruck, and he was the guy, as I mentioned, guy hanging onto the jersey or hanging onto the boots as they went past a different defender. Robson and Hiku were decent. Luciano and Nanai had fantastic games.
This is my point. 66 to whatever it was, 18, 6 weeks ago, Luciano's return game. What a difference. I'm not sure saying it's all because of him.
But match
What a
fitness
different
and
size
him,
comes. But size back into that pack. They had a tiny pack at that time.
Yep.
Luciano, ever since, I don't think they've lost a game since then. Luciano's come back.
JT's back.
Nanai came back. And Tolo didn't play here. But yeah, I reckon Luciano has turned the corner with them, and that's for them. Not single-handedly, but him coming back he's been great ever since.
Yeah, no, well, we saw what he did at the back end of last year. He's a big injection into this squad at the back end of last year, and he's improved on that again. Took him probably 2 games to get his match fitness, but he's now up and running, and there's not a lot of blokes skirting down that edge trying to get past him one-on-one because he puts on a pretty solid hit when he gets hold of someone. So they've got to be back in the talk for the top 8.
I think so.
Someone that could, as you
Incredible.
mentioned before, dark horse that can cause an upset in the
Incredible to
finals
think
and
where they've come from.
maybe knock someone out that you wouldn't think that they were going to knock out 6 weeks ago. They looked like they were going to go close to running last fucking 6 or 8 weeks ago.
I liked that Peyton's ruthless as well. Like he's just gone, well, Valame's here and we don't need Kyle Felt anymore.
Tuolangi and Holmes played Origin on Wednesday. Fuck it. See you, Kyle.
Yeah.
Bring the boys back in.
Yeah.
There we are.
As for Mr. Holmes,
What about just about everybody who backed up from Origin was fantastic again. This
except
weekend.
Mount's still hungover and allegedly, and there's someone else. Oh, and Penrith rested everyone.
Ross
Everyone
was a
else,
bit iffy,
as
but,
they've
yeah.
done again, has been great. Absolutely great. Can't knock us. Oh, can I? I can't knock anyone I can think of. There's
Who
probably
was
someone.
it? I think it was Flegler they asked about. Oh, no, sorry. They asked Welsh, one of the Melbourne forwards about Munster, and he said he had Caxtonitis.
Yeah, exactly. Val, like fast, dangerous. This was the best Val Holmes.
Yeah,
He
been
was
since
sensational.
Origin. Since Origin
Yeah,
started, he has absolutely kicked back
He's
into
got
gear.
Stafford this week, and I'm actually nervous for Stafford.
Yeah, I would be too.
Yeah.
His footwork and pace in the last couple of weeks has been tremendous. Chad was decent with his kicking game, did strong running. You mentioned it all before. They played their roles perfectly. Tuolangi and Holmes were really good on that edge, but Drinkwater was the man of the match.
Yeah.
He was a catalyst of everything.
Yep.
Holmes was the second best on
Yep.
the field, I thought. And then I had Murray Dearden or Nanai for the one. Probably even chuck in Luciano. But
Who did I have for one? That's a fine question here. I didn't write it down. The 3 and 2 I agree with, and Nanai Dearden or Luciano. I could give it to Dearden. I thought it was quite good. It was just a pure running game, but he did what Dearden does, and
scored a
Dearden-
try. Set up
Dearden
one,
did
I
it
think.
well,
A couple of nice grubbers.
as Dr. Zeus would say.
That thing just rolled along the ground.
It
Anyway.
did. Anyway, we're 20-18. Canberra over the Chooks in a It wasn't a bad game of footy. It wasn't the best game of footy I've ever seen, but it was physical enough, and through
It was,
it was
yeah.
physical enough, and there was enough intensity at times. Unfortunately, both teams looked like they had no idea what they were doing most of the time.
Yeah. And they both probably gifted each other a try as well in the offing. But 3 tries apiece, 3 out of 3 for the Roosters, 2 out of 3 conversions for the Raiders, 2 out of 2 penalty attempts for the Canberra side, 80% completion, played 82%, 127 plus running metres for the Raiders, 2 line breaks for both sides, 20 tackle busts, played 31, 9 offloads to 19, a forced dropout by the Roosters, 407 tackles, played 344, 11 errors to Sydney, 7 to Canberra, 4 penalties conceded to 3, 4 ruck infringements against the Raiders, 1 inside the 10 against the Roosters. Both teams had a couple of nice chances early. Just couldn't really cash in on them. The first penalty I thought was touch and go for a professional foul.
Yep.
Ball coming back, Egan Butcher decided to claim the ball when he really had no right to be in that position, which is obviously why they got the penalty. But for mine, he prevented a try.
Yeah.
So there was 2 Raiders directly behind him. That either of those pick up the ball, they score. So I thought that probably should have been a professional foul and 10 minutes in the bin, but wasn't. It was a penalty to the Canberra team. Roosters just seemed to blow every opportunity they had in the first half. Anytime they got down the Raiders' end, they just threw it into touch. They ran around in circles. They dropped the ball. They gave away. I think they gave away a penalty in possession as well, which doing that kind of stuff's just not going to get you anywhere.
I'll just tell you the exact minute they actually passed the ball to someone capable of scoring. It was the 39th.
Yes.
And then Joey Manu scored.
I've got that in my notes, to be honest.
But yeah, carry on.
Yeah, they just gave away so many penalties, errors in the first half until the very last minute of the first half, with Manu running through a nice hole, which was created by Keary, sort of drifting across the field, and took 3 of them with him over the try line. It was Manu again, 5 minutes into the second half, jumping over the top of someone to score another try, and he really looked like the only point of attack for the Roosters for the majority of this game. The Raiders scored a couple of nice tries. One was sort of gifted to them, but
I'll get you the race. But I just want to emphasise that point. Literally, the only way they ever looked like scoring a point was from Joey Manu. There was nothing else for that first half. There was nothing. From Keary, yes, Tedesco ran lots of meters, and it looks very nice when you look at the stats, et cetera, but there was nothing in that attack.
Sandon set up 1 or 2 little sort of half breaks.
There's some nice touches.
Sandon Smith,
Yeah,
a couple of nice little back rower runs that sort of half busted through the defence, but they never really penetrated the defence to anything meaningful in that first half. A bit of a luck in most of the tries, really, with balls sort of bouncing around with the white and one. But the Hopewadi try was brilliant, beautiful. It's probably the best try of the match, with Croker opening up the defender, beating him on the outside, then coming back inside, and a flick pass to Young, who flicks it on to Hopewadi to score in the corner. That for mine was the best try of the night, which they had to do on their own, which wasn't sort of the theme of the night, really.
It's funny because in a game without a lot of attacking press, I want to wrap Fogarty's kicking. Look, his kicking was brilliant. His spiral bomb is as good as anyone's.
He's been a big part of the reason that they've won. Majority 100%. Of the games they've won this year, to be honest.
They never get close against Tigers without him. The game after that, they beat Para.
Grubbers bouncing off posts.
Off the Grubber, same thing.
Spiral bombs.
And ever since we thought he's come back and he's been his kicking game. He's got as good a kicking game in
the attacking position.
He has the 3rd best kicking game in the comp. If I was rating him, and people don't want to hear this, I would go DCE, Moses, Fogarty. There you go. This year,
yeah,
you Cleary fucking weirdos.
The second half really looked like the Roosters were coming, and they were going to, they scored 5 minutes into the second half. They were well in contention in the second half, and they were starting to open the Raiders up at times, causing problems on sort of both sides of the field, but never really any massive clean breaks, just more sort of half breaks and pushing, getting fast play the balls and playing off the back of that.
I feel like that exposed, I know there's injuries, but I feel like it exposed where some of their back row was at, because in the past, your Guzzi Crichtons, your Fletchers, your Bakers, your, I know Tupanua's now out for another season.
Yep. Because he's right off the boil
He's
at the
he's
moment.
gone.
He's
and and as everyone, if you've listened to the show long enough, you know how
right
much I
this
love him.
season
But
off,
he's
and
not. He's not
hopefully
with
he
us.
comes back to where he was.
But
next year.
their edges are just non-existent.
Yep. But you have to give it to the Raiders. They showed more guts than me in a tank top, to be honest. They hung in there and just fought and scrapped for everything.
Doesn't
that
take
they
a tank
could.
top, Barney.
They fought and scrapped for everything they could. And at the back end of this game, even when the Roosters had all the field position and possession and were causing problems for the Raiders, tough win. Another one for their season. There's probably 7 or 8 now where they probably, were really in the fight and could have lost every one of those games, but they've managed to hang in and get the 2 points. So a really important one for them too now. I think they're pretty well entrenched in that top 8 now, and they're going to,
I've conceded that old mate. I'm probably going to owe him $100.
I think you might. Yeah, it's looking that way.
Not my fault.
Unless
it's
something
everyone
falls
else's
apart.
fault. But
Yeah,
I'll pay up.
it's the
Let me know
comp's fault.
if you're listening. I think it was Daniel. Inbox me and let me know inbox us on Facebook and let us know your PayPal details. Once it happens, hasn't happened yet. I'll sort it out.
Tanya Tupu and Kiri were decent. Turpin, again, another really good game from him. Jared Hargraves had a good game as well as Radley. Nathaniel White was really good in mine. He was probably one of their better
dangerous.
players. Did look dangerous. Sandon Smith as well caused a few problems for the Canberra defence. But, they were very good. But it was Manu was their best player by a long way for the Roosters, and looked by far their best player. Wolford, Young and Saulo were all good for the Raiders side. Tomoko, Hopewadi and Croker were very good on that edge.
Yep.
They were causing problems down there for the Raiders, especially in that first half. Went missing a little bit in the second half. But Fogarty and Horsburgh, they were the difference in this game. Horsburgh was enormous in the middle of the field again. Another one that just took it all upon himself in the middle of the field. Tapane and Tapane was a bit of help.
Don't even compare Tarpon. I know you love him to Horsburgh.
No,
Horsburgh.
at least they were there to help. But Horsburgh was a one-man wrecking crew.
And 50 tackles on top of it.
Fantastic in the middle of the field. He's just taken his game to a completely different level. And as you mentioned,
Another Queenslander, in case you're worried.
Fogarty's kicking and some nice little subtle ball playing was the difference in this match. So.
A couple you haven't mentioned just quickly. I thought Jack White. He was very, very good in this match, but he's not a 5'8". He's been playing 5'8" for 3 years. He's not a 5'8". He'll go to Souths and wreck House next year. Imagine if New South Wales had set out in Origin this year and just said, you know what, we'll work the rest of the shit out, but Campbell Graham and Jack White are our centres. Because I reckon if they'd said that, Jack White would have played.
The defence would have been a lot different.
Different defensive structure and more points coming.
Would have forced Queensland back to the middle of the field a lot more. Yeah.
Instead, they went with every other option under the sun. But the 2 best centres in the game, who were World Cup winning centres, it's not like they're unproven.
Very good defensive centres.
The best defensive centres in the game would have been amazing together. And we never got to see it in the 3 years under Freddie. We never saw that. So thanks, Freds. But I thought Whiten, for what Whiten does, and like I said, what he did, he was very good in this game.
Yeah.
The
I did
chances
actually
he
have
got.
him down for a point, so I
Well,
don't know
yeah.
why I didn't mention him. And
No,
Lindsay
it's-
Collins is one I didn't mention for
Yeah.
the Roosters either. He was in
Um,
fantastic form for the
and
Roosters.
Seb Chris was great. Good.
Got caught out of
Very
position
good.
once,
But he's not.
but
He still is not a. He's not a
out-and-out
purebred
fullback,
fullback. He's a manufactured fullback. He's doing a very good job, and
he's
the
a
team that's winning.
Centre winger.
Yeah. Now, James Tedesco got out jumped by Seb Chris. Got out jumped by a back rower twice. The first 2 tries,
Lindsay Collins
Uh,
in Origin.
and got out jumped by Lindsay Collins in Origin. Now, I don't want to. People don't like to hear it. Like Roosters fans don't like it. But Ricky Ponting is the best cricketer I ever saw, right? And I think we can all agree the last 18 months he played for Australia, he probably shouldn't have been playing for Australia.
Probably not.
And I love Punter, like best batsman I've ever seen. Like my fucking Twitter handle is Daggy14. I wear 14 in the back of my back because of Ricky Ponting.
At least the last 9 months. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and the last memories of Ricky Ponting getting bowled by Dale Steyn at Adelaide Oval, falling over on his face and looking like a dickhead. For literally the greatest cricketer in my time I've seen. James Tedesco is now starting to encroach in that territory. I'm not saying he doesn't try hard. I'm not saying he shouldn't be playing first grade. I'm not saying he shouldn't necessarily be playing for New South Wales. But this game, he was exposed a couple of times. The Teddy of 2018 does not concede those 2 tries the Roosters concede. The Teddy of 2020 makes a cover tackle and saves the other try. Mm-hmm. He's not at that level anymore. A lot of the best fullbacks of our generation, apart from Billy Slater, moved to 5'8" or elsewhere. So your Lockyers, your Inglis's, your someone else.
I don't know where you're playing though.
Well, this is my point. So what do you do with Teddy? You just go. You're not winning. And I wouldn't even say it if it was another club. If it was the Dragons or the Tigers or the Knights, you don't mess with Teddy.
Yeah, it's not going to matter.
But you've got Joey. You've got Joey, a Golden Boot winning fullback, there, who can run 350 metres in a game if you let him. What do you do? What do you do at a ruthless club? Do you say, look, let's give you a pre-season at 6? We've got no one else. Yeah. Thanks, Sam Walker. Have a pre-season at 6, Teddy. Practice your kicking. Can you get up and going? And you and Kiri be our 6. Do you try him at centre? Is there somewhere else you do him? Or do you just go, okay, well, Joey, we're going to now run 14th this year, and next year doesn't look particularly good because we've signed these players who were at the top of the hill when we signed them, and the only way from the top of the hill is this way. Are we just going to cop it for 2 years till you go and thanks a lot, Teddy? What do you do with James Tedesco? Barney?
I think your best option is to try and make him a 6, but how does he defend in the front line? I think that's why they played Manu there ahead of him earlier this year. And I think he becomes a defensive liability, which is probably even worse than what he's getting jumped over at fullback at the moment. So,
could you play him as a wing? And that's
possibly could play him as a winger.
Play him in the wing.
You could play him as a winger, but it's still the same thing. You're going to have big 7-foot blokes like Dominic Young running at him, trying to jump over the top of him. And if you can't get off the ground to compete with that, then that's going to be pretty well shown up as well. He needs to lessen his involvement, especially in the backline plays.
The biggest thing is he's destroyed himself over 10 years. Taken 3 hit-ups every set and trying to run throughout it every game. Yeah.
Needs less involvement in the backline plays if they're going to keep him at fullback, and just really concentrate on being, because he is one of the better blokes in position, like defensive positioning.
No doubt.
And being in the right position for grubber kicks and all that kind of stuff, and focus back that way. But he's probably going to, as you said, have another 18 months at fullback for the Roosters, and he's probably going to be remembered for not being what he was at his
Especially
best.
Once it really starts crumbling. Once the wall crumbles, that's a long way back. Well,
I can't see him really fitting in anywhere else.
If a bomb goes up
6,
tomorrow,
then he goes
are you back in Jareen Buller or Teddy to get there first?
Yeah.
And it's unfair. One's 20, one's 32. But that's what's going to spread. Next minute you've got Sabra jumping over you. Next minute you've got once we saw it with Punter. Once the snowball starts,
it's going to be the same thing as a winger as well. Centres or 5'8", maybe you could try and do some training with him in the off season and see if you can make him.
I feel like he's big enough to play centre,
but
they're still fast enough. I don't think it's a knock on his pace or his output. It's just
centre's probably his ideal position, to be honest.
Centre field RTS.
Just swap him with Manu. And
that looks obvious to me. And 15 weeks out of 24, you're not going to have a better centre than you're playing against you. He'll be able to tackle most of them. Yeah, like Campbell Graham or Val Holmes might burn him on those games.
I hope he comes and lights up the rest of the season, and we see the best out of him for the rest of this year. But it's not looking.
Of course, I love Teddy. Like fucking yeah, I will. I would make a strong argument. He's in the Quinella for the best fullback of the NRL era. NRL era. Right. Him and Billy Slater, probably the best too. If you're going to say New South Wales, fine as well.
It's probably the best. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Any dad?
Look, I just think if I was Trent Robinson, I'd probably let Tedesco go.
Right.
I think just refresh, try someone new, freeze up the salary cap. You may as well move in another direction.
Tigers give $1 million, he'll be happy.
I respect the hell out of Tedesco, one of the best to have played the game, but his career's not over, but prime Tedesco's over. So if Roosters, they've had I think, by their standards, a bad season.
Absolutely.
so far. So I think for them, bite the bullet. I'd try and move on Tedesco.
I
as
reckon
soon
I
as
could
they can.
understand it if everything else is clicking, but nothing else is clicking. Like, I don't think they'd know who their halfback is next.
No.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't
Right.
know. I think in those times, I understand why you'd bunker down and back what you know and try and find your way out. But to me, I think the centre switch might be the most obvious.
I think so too. He could go to a club who needs a centre, who's struggling a bit, and
Okay,
he'd probably
fullback.
no, I wouldn't say
I mean,
rejuvenate
the Dragons
his career,
on
but
1.5 and play there for what for? Like what for?
he'd keep himself in the books of being one of the current best players if he makes that move, and he could probably help his career and help another club if he goes.
I
on.
wouldn't be shocked though if he turns around and retires from rep footy this year and
Yeah, I would
World Cup
say
winning
that's the end of it.
captain, Origin
Oh,
winning
he's had
captain,
an amazing career.
Hall
as
of
it is.
Famer. You know, if
If
no one's
you-
ever
if you're
mentioned
trying
this,
to
but
get
if he's in the immortal conversation in 10 years' time.
100%.
Not
He's
quite,
he's
but
kind of damaging his
it's
legacy
definitely
at the
up there.
moment, but I think he's still had that good of a career that he's immortal worthy. I think so.
He's in the conversation. I don't think he'll ever get bestowed the honour. But if you, as you said, if you're trying to get 12 to 18 months out of him, I'd be looking at switching him to centre. Lessens his involvements. He's got the pace to beat people one-on-one. He's big enough to be a defensive. Be able to hold his position.
realistically, and you do the stats, but realistically, you have to make 15 tackles at
Yeah,
centre.
absolutely.
It's
And
like-
5 or 6 runs.
yeah,
Like,
and
realistically,
yes, Fafita might run over you one
and
day.
he's
or,
a bloke who breaks tackles, which is
Yeah.
what you want out of a centre.
get him
He's got a
wider,
decent
isolate
farm.
him. He runs. If
decent
you're going to
palm.
get caught in a corner, he may as well get some clean ball and off he
He'll
goes.
be able to draw and pass for a winger.
Especially if Manu's in the middle, giving him the clean ball. Anyway, Robbo, if you're listening, give it a crack, bro. Anything else this game? Yeah, no. I
No,
think we
Corey
covered it.
Horsburgh was man of the match for mine.
Yep.
I thought he was incredible in the middle of the field. I had Fogarty for 2.
Yep.
And then I had either Whiten or Lindsay Collins for the 1. 2 blokes
That's a
I didn't
good
mention when I
shout.
did the
Can-
preview.
Can
the
you?
review.
Can you? Well, no, I mentioned Whiten. Just touch on Collins. He was great. He was great.
He was aggressive. He was, again, his defence in the middle of the field's picked up massively considering where it was 12 months ago, where he was a bit of a liability in defence at times in the middle of the field. He's not that anymore. Origin is he's another one of those guys that's just gone into Origin, and obviously confidence has been a massive boost coming into the last 4 weeks. And the last 4 weeks, he's been the leader in the middle of the field. He's the guy that they need, obviously, in this team to take over from Jared when he does decide to go. He's already started performance-wise. He's taken over from Jared, in my opinion, over the last 4 to 6 weeks. And yeah, he's someone that will be at this club, I would imagine, until he retires or until they get sick of him with a year to go.
Well, they've just re-signed Jared. So honestly, the Roosters are. I can't see, and this is the thing of it. If you look at the bottom 4 from the bottom 6 right now, I reckon that'd be identical, apart from the Roosters last year. Tigers, Canterbury, Newcastle, Dragons, yada yada yada.
Yeah.
It takes a lot. It takes a big clean out. It takes a lot of time to change anything. The Roosters have re-signed everyone for next year. How are they going to change beyond drastic changes we just talked about? But to your point, Jared's staying for another year, and Lindsay's now the dominant prop. He hasn't had a great. His first 3 months weren't great, but Origin's awoken the beast, and I hope he keeps going.
Well, there's something going on with Lodge there. He hasn't been getting
He's
minutes,
going, he's
minutes in
going.
that
Yeah,
team. They've
yeah.
gotten rid of him now. He was a big part of what they did last
Nathan
year.
Brown's been good, so there's
yeah,
someone
Nathan
there.
Brown's
Found
been good.
someone.
You've got Tupanua and Crichton who are well below their best.
Yeah.
So you get them anywhere near their best. They're very good. You
And
got
those two make the Bakers,
And then
the Butchers better.
The Butchers then move to the bench role.
Yeah.
Well, one of them does at least, who adds a bit of impact coming off the bench. It's really about there's probably had 4 to 5 blokes who have just well and truly underperformed this year.
yeah.
And their halves have been
But
headless
is
for a
the
big part of the
concern
year as
that,
well. So.
Is the concern when you sign blokes at their peak, the
Yeah, of
only
course.
way's down.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no, and that's what they do, and they win comps at times, so that's fine. Anyway,
Big part of their problem's been Kiri, Walker, and all the young bloke's been pretty good since he's come in, but Kiri and Walker have been like shot ducks for the
Yeah.
majority of the year.
As
They
I
have
said-
not been able to provide points for most of the season,
as I said, quarterbacks are,
Oof.
yeah, that's a good ball.
isn't it?
Shades of the old Barnabas.
I've seen Kawaja lose the top of his off stump.
Yeah, yeah, it is the halves are the key of this team, and they haven't had one since. And Cheese was disappointing.
Has been, yeah, very much so.
Have we got? Let's take this home so we can get to our preview. Pop plan of the week, Barn.
young fee guy on the wing for the Dragons. I think pretty sure it's the second time I've potted him this year. But for an 80-minute performance, put out 7 runs for 30-odd metres, made a tackle and missed 3 of them, and gave up a try through a mistake. Yeah, he was my pot plant for the weekend.
Newcastle Knights for me.
The whole
From
crew.
where they've come from, I'll just plant the lot because they should have been better against Penrith. And
Yes.
when your peer reviews from other NRL players is suggesting the same, then I don't feel so bad. You got a slap?
Yes, I am slapping. Where are we? South Attack. It's absolutely fallen off a cliff. Cody Walker went and had a lie down for this game. Did not get involved at all. Obviously, missing Latrell is a big part of their attack as well, but they're not hitting the edges. They're not breaking holes in defences, especially the Cowboys, who have been suspect for the majority of the year. I know they're a lot better than what they have been previously, but yeah, South's attack for mine has gone absolutely backwards since someone tipped them to win the comp.
Isn't it funny? Because my slap is South Sydney in general. They need to wake the fuck up or they're gone. Like, they are gone, and the Reaper will have struck again. Salute. We'll finish on a high note. Salute, Barn. What do you got? You got anything for any of these? Are you happy to?
Oh, I'll give a slap to my restaurant manager, Maddie, for putting a bet on the Knights to win 13 plus with a few try scorers. I told her, I said, you're not going to beat Panthers 13 plus at home. Like, they're missing their origin stars, but you're not going to win 13 plus. Knights aren't playing that way at the moment. So,
Correct.
Maddie, you get a slap for that.
Well, Maddie, when you listen to Footy and Frothies in the kitchen this week, you can line up that.
I had a few. I couldn't decide. There's some brilliant individual performances from the Warriors. I was enthralled with what I saw from those guys on the weekend. I narrowed it down to 2 with Fanua Blake, with what he did through the middle of the field and the way he tore that forward pack apart almost single-handedly, and Dallin Watene-Zelezniak. He was in fine form. Just the way he was finishing those tries, one-handed put downs with front flips and, contorting his body into all sorts of positions to be able to get the ball down under the, with 2 and 3 blokes rushing at him. It was a brilliant performance from Dallin.
Yeah, I've got to give a salute to Dallin as well. First time he's got 4 tries.
Yep.
In a game,
Yeah,
so
that's-
that's,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
impressive.
Yeah, it went from
Doesn't
the,
matter how,
the double to
how
the
good
four
they
for-
are. 4 tries in a game is impressive
Absolutely.
regardless. So good on Dallin for getting
Cannot
that first
argue
time
for
achievement.
him. I'm going to give my young fella Elijah a salute. He took on St Mary's Leagues this week and they got bashed out of the game, but he was the only one who was taking 2 and 3 hit ups a game by the end of that game and scored 6 tries out of the 7 they actually scored in a day. So big shout out to him. I'll put some, if you're watching YouTube, I'll put some good shooters footage over the
Good
top
on
for you.
Ken.
I'm going to also salute the forgotten man there, Corey, because I knew you would have had the others up your sleeve, and I just think he's doing an outstanding job at the Warriors this year and just fitting in that puzzle well. And in
Bend your back, big fella.
in a battle we in a battle we singled out on the preview show is the battle around the forward pack battle for Mo Fodderwake to lose Tino and
Yep.
to come out and do 200 plus meters, 30 plus tackles against Haas and Co.
We salute you, Mo.
Sensational. So, Mo, we salute you. This has been Footy and Frothies. That's the review show in the books. We'll be back soon to talk about round 18. Get stuck in it all in a minute. So, take care, guys, and we'll talk soon. Bye.